Good morning to you, and thank you for joining with me today. You know, there are some places and some areas that just get a bad press. People kind of look down their noses at them. I won't list them, but wherever you are, wherever you stay, there will be a town and an area that gets a bad reputation. Well, there's a fellow in the Bible whose name was Nathaniel. He was a good guy. But when he heard about Jesus, he asked where he came from and was told Nazareth. And his response was, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" The sad thing is probably Nazareth was no worse than anywhere else. It was what it was, a small, dusty, insignificant village of people struggling to stay solvent. Nazareth was unremarkable, indistinguished. It was what it was. But Nathaniel dismisses it. And I suppose it's our way of dismissing people who come from places that the Americans would call the wrong side of the tracks. For some, the tracks are money, they're poor. For some, the tracks are social ties. Or for some, the tracks are physical, too fat, too skinny, too ugly, whatever. And we dismiss them. They're damned from the very start, dismissed without a hearing, not even given a chance, up against it. When God is up to something, in your life there are two things you can count on. Martin Luther described one perfectly when he said, when God builds a church, the devil builds a chapel. But I believe God does his greatest work sometimes in the worst of places, in the worst of times, in the worst of people. I mean, if I'd been Jesus, I'm sure I probably wouldn't have chosen Peter or James or John to continue my mission. I don't know if I would even have given them an interview. But when Philip comes and says to Nathaniel, tells him about Jesus, Nathaniel's not listening. Eventually he says, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" Philip had an answer and said, "Come and see." And he did. I tell you the story of the man who kept falling asleep during a sermon. And the minister was getting pretty frustrated with all this. And one Sunday he decided to teach the fellow a lesson. As was his practice, he started off to preach slowly, almost in a monotone. And sure enough, the man was soon in a deep sleep. So the minister said to the congregation, "Everyone who wants to go to heaven, stand up." And everybody stood up, except, of course, the man who was fast asleep. The minister told him to sit down. Then he gently says, "Everyone who wants to go to hell, stand up." And he banged the lectern. The sleeping man awoke and jumped to his feet as everybody turned around to laugh. And the man looked at all the folks sitting around him, and he looked at the minister and says, "I don't know what we're voting on, sir, but it looks like you and me are the only ones for it." Well, Nathaniel had his reservations, but he put them aside. And he went and he met Jesus and he became a follower. Let's not be judgmental about those who look different from us, who live in a different place from us, because I'm pretty certain God has a place for them, as he also has for us. God bless you, and thank you again for listening to me.